All right,
Way
so we're
more.
going to walk you through some of the stuff you've heard before. Some of the stuff might be kind of new. This was the initial reports here. 5 U.S. soldiers shot. 5 soldiers were shot at Fort Stewart in Georgia in an active shooter incident in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area. The soldiers were transported to the hospital in unknown conditions. The shooter had already been taken into custody at 11:35 a.m. So again, as we can report, you'll see here. Let's just keep going. We don't need the Fox News alert. Let's just get to who the shooter was here really quick, because a lot of people had a question. Was this a civilian? Was this a sergeant or whatever? Was this a soldier? Play it. This is when we found out.
Fox News has just confirmed that the shooter was a U.S. soldier. Officials tell Fox News from the military that the shooter was a male U.S. Army sergeant. So we know, as suspected, the shooter was a soldier, a sergeant, wounding 5 U.S. soldiers on Fort Stewart. At least 2 of those 5 now been taken to hospital by ambulance, treated on the scene initially, but at least 2 serious enough to be taken by ambulance. There could be a 3rd on the way soon. Bad weather for helicopter flights, so they rushed them there. No fatalities, 5 shot, and the shooter, we've just learned, is a sergeant. No word yet on any possible motivation for these attacks. Sandra. Fox News has.
All right. So, and let's go here. I believe, who is this? The base commander?
Yeah, this
probably?
this is the general.
All right, for Fort Stewart, giving an update. Here we go.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. This morning, shortly before 11 o'clock, an active duty soldier assigned to Fort Stewart, Georgia, shot and wounded 5 of his fellow soldiers here on Fort Stewart. Thankfully, all are in stable condition and all are expected to recover. The alleged shooter is in custody. We have reestablished security. I have lifted all lockdown measures on Fort Stewart, and there is currently no threat to the local community. I'd like to recognize and thank our Army law enforcement and medical personnel and our partners from local, state, and federal law enforcement and emergency services for their quick response and support. I would also like to thank the brave soldiers who immediately intervened and subdued the shooter. These soldiers, without a doubt, prevented further casualties. Our wounded soldiers were initially evacuated to Wynn Army Community Hospital right here on Fort Stewart. All arrived in stable condition, and 3 of the 5 required surgical intervention. 2 have been transported to Memorial Hospital in Savannah, Georgia for additional care. We have identified the alleged shooter as Sergeant Cornelius Radford, an automated logistics sergeant assigned to 2nd Brigade Combat Team.
All right, pause. So Cornelius Radford. So who's this guy? Let's take a look at the photo of what this guy. All right, there you go. Cornelius Radford. He was an E5?
I think he was a staff sergeant. It says Army sergeant, but you know as well as I do, the term sergeant can go from like E5 to E7.
Blah, blah, blah.
I think he was a E6, I think.
Okay, so a lot of people are wondering about, all this kind of stuff and everything. But first, let's get to Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth was briefed on it yesterday, and he put out a post saying this. And like I said, he is supposed to be on the Will Cain show today at 4. I am positive that there will be a lot more updates on that, but this is what he had to say. Today, a cowardly shooting at Fort Stewart left 5 brave soldiers wounded. Praise God, they are all in stable condition. Our prayers are with them, their families, and the entire Fort Stewart community in the aftermath of this attack. We owe profound gratitude to the law enforcement heroes who charged into danger. Swift justice will be brought to the perpetrator and anyone else found to be involved. Now, here is an interesting thing, and I want to check this live on screen here just to see what's trending and what's not here. So right now, go back to the shooter's picture. Right now, the number 1 trending thing is Zebby. Number 2 is ESPN. Number 3 is mRNA. Number 4 is South Park. Number 7 is Big Balls from yesterday. Number 8 is Penske. Howard Stern's number 9. Texas is number 10. Good Thursday. Fort Stewart is number 13. But this guy's name is nowhere trending on X right now. And I'm sorry, I don't want to make it about this, but facts is facts. If this had been a white guy, his name would be the number one trending thing. Gun control would have been the number one or number two trending thing on here. Am I right or wrong? Comment in the chat, yes or no. Am I right or wrong?
Unfortunately.
Yep, you're probably got some correct information there. And my question is this: I mean, you guys were both stationed on bases, so you guys have said before that you cannot take your own personal weapons onto a base,
Yes.
correct? Okay, so do we know, or is there any information?
Yes,
Did he
we
break
do.
through the fence? I mean,
No, there's
No.
there's two things here. Okay, there's two things that the left can suck it on. All right, number one, because Graham, you and I both know, and people in the chat, maybe you don't know, the left has been trying to take weapons away, personal owned weapons away from people like me and Graham for the last 6 years. Anybody that has confirmed PTSD, any soldier that has confirmed PTSD, they've been trying to take their gun ownership away for years. This individual has never deployed. He did not use a weapon of war. He used a personally owned pistol to do this, and he'd never been deployed. So you can get the AR crap out of here and the PTSD crap out of here now. Okay, this dude was just a piece of trash.
So he snuck his own pistol onto the base. Is that what he did?
Well,
Yeah.
well, okay, but here's the thing, and we've got 9 minutes before we switch over to the premium content show, which I encourage all of you to consider becoming a premium member. All right, here's the thing. First of all, what was the motive? All right, so this is a clip allegedly from, I believe it's his dad, or is it his uncle? Okay,
Yeah,
his
this is
dad saying that what was the motive, and you probably guessed it for $1 million, racism. Play it.
Back in this community, they want to know exactly what happened. But talking about the suspect, Cornelius Radford, we do know the New York Times has talked to his father. He actually made some allegations saying his son wanted to transfer from this base and was facing racism. So we actually reached out to the Third ID to ask about those claims. And so far, they have not gotten back to us yet about the claims. They said there's been sort of an active investigation ongoing in terms of the claims made by Cornelius.
Right there. Father of alleged shooter says son wanted to transfer, experienced racism at Fort Stewart. So there it is. Racism, okay? This white hatred, okay? Because that's what it really is. His son didn't like the fact he was surrounded by a bunch of redneck white people. That's probably what it all amounts to. But either way, okay? I've been in line units. Todd's been in line units. This is bull crap is what
1,000,000% garbage.
This is the most garbage on the planet. But I want to talk about this, okay? And this is what I want to get at. I want you to put some American flags in the chat if you agree. I believe that it is time to allow every service member to carry a weapon and to have a weapon on them on federal installations, anywhere. That's where I'm at, because here's why. Most people don't realize this. Military bases are some of the most vulnerable places in the country, because the only people that have weapons are the gate guards, the MPs at the gates. That's it. If you want to get to a weapon on an Army base, you got to go to an armory, you got to pick up the weapon, and then you got to get the bullets from somewhere else. And it is the most difficult thing in the world. These bases are sitting ducks to attacks. And I promise you this, and I might get met with Graham, shut your stupid mouth, but I'm going to talk to the Secretary of Defense personally about this. I want to talk to Chief Spokesperson Sean Parnell about this. It is time to make military bases not no firearm zones. Like it is insane to me. Think of it like this. Even the most pogue MOS in the world, all right? Even the most
which was his supply.
But listen, they've had more training on firearms than the average person that got their concealed carry license. The end. Okay, the end, right? So why in the world do we make our soldiers sitting ducks in this scenario?
On and off base.
You know what would have prevented this Cornelius from doing this? If he knew that all thousands of soldiers on Fort Stewart had guns, because he'd be freaking dead.
Do
you understand what I'm saying?
Understand something. This is the home of the second ID, people. Like, these were the ones that were the initial guys jumping into Iraq, coming in 2003, coming from Kuwait, working their way up, and us in the fourth ID came in after them. This dude would have been unalived in 30 seconds. Like, he'd have been cooked in 30 seconds.
Again, people don't realize this. And, you know, I've told people all the time, they're like, you know, back when Biden was president, they're like, well, what if they turn the military against us? I was honest. I said, we will overtake them. Because the amount of time it would take the United States, the military that would have agreed to come after us, the amount of time it would have taken them to get all the weapons and everything that they needed, like, we would have already been there because we got it all already. Military bases and installations are some of the most vulnerable targets, period. And that's the biggest lie and deception that people believe. They just assume it's a military base. Everybody's a trained soldier. Everybody's got weapons. Like, who in their right mind would attack that? We've seen it over and over and over and over again at this point. And so and again, it may do nothing, but I personally am going to speak with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and recommend, sir, I think it's time that we get rid of this, you know, no firearms on federal installations. I think it's insane. Like I said, at their base level, even if they're cooks, even if they're postal clerks, they have had more weapons training than the average American citizen that gets their concealed carry. They just have. They just have. The end. Okay? And I realize there's better shooters in the military than others. I got it. All right? We've all seen the videos of people loading a magazine in backwards. We've all seen it. But on average, 99%, the most non-combat MOS job in the military has had more rifle training, especially in the Army and the Marines. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe there's an argument to be made about sailors and Air Force, like you know, I've heard the stories of Air Force like training with fake guns. I don't know if it's true or not, but all this other stuff. But especially on Army and Marine Corps bases. Like, your most basic job, no matter what your MOS
Is a rifleman.
is to be proficient
Yeah,
with a
is a
freaking
rifleman.
gun. Like, you know, and so it makes no sense to me whatsoever that our men and women in uniform are not allowed to carry. That makes no sense, and they're vulnerable, and they're soft targets, and it is time to get rid of it. If you agree with that, put an American flag in the chat right now.